Hey everyone, welcome to this video, and today we are going to talk about layer normalization in transformers and why do we need it. So as you can see, after every uh, multi-headed casual attention or like self-attention or a feed-forward uh, pass, you always end up with a layer normalization. So in a transformer, for example, in this nano GPT model, this is coming like more than three times. Okay, it is coming for three times. Why is it so important, and why without its presence, the signal or your input will deviate so much from the output? Why the input will be so scrambled after so much uh, matrix multiplication and input plus output addition? Why do we need it? We need it to keep the signal not deviate so much from the input, and the output should be in the range of input. But if we remove the layer normalization, that won't work. And it is applied after every, you can say, uh, forward pass, after every matrix multiplication, after every weight calculation, after every skip, you had a layer normalization. And the reason for that is we have to normalize the output so it looks, it is in the range of the input, it doesn't explode. Otherwise, after so much attention and what you can say, a matrix multiplication, so many weights, it will just explode. The input will explode, it will become so big that it will not produce a good output. So for that, we need layer normalization. If we just look at this 3D structure of nano GPT, you can see we have token embedding, input embedding, and positional embedding that we have discussed in the previous videos. But after the input embedding multiplication with positional embeddings, we again get to layer normalization. We normalize it, and then after every skip step, when we add the input to the output of multi-head casual self-attention, we again have this layer normalization. And not just here, after every major multiplication, we normalize the input, normalize the output with the input. After every skip connection, after every major multiplication. So how do we do that? What is root mean square normalization, and how we do it? So let's just look at it. So if I go here and I can present to you the stability of intelligence. So we are going to take the example of the Gamma model, the root mean square normalization that they have done here, and we're gonna move forward to understand how it works, how this normalization works in modern LLMs, not just the nano GPT. So yeah, you can understand the terminology much better from this example. So you have this input. Okay, you had this input, you put the input signal, maybe some token, into the transformer. But after layers and layers of multiplication, addition, uh, attention, your output gets so scrambled. The input, which was something like this, just get scrambled. You don't understand what the input was. You're not able to produce something like input. You just increase, maybe you explode the signal so much that it doesn't make sense anymore. Your uh, input is just so different from the output, and the output is just nonsense. It doesn't make any sense because we didn't control it when it was exploding, when this multiple matrix multiplications, this layer by layer multiplication was changing our input. We were not able to uh, contain it in some, we are not able to normalize it in some dimension, in some range. Okay, so the antagonist here is the exploding gradients. This is a no, this is a common problem with neural networks, that after multiplications, or after layer by layer weight multiplication, your input uh, just explodes. This gradient, just these weights keep multiplying with the input and just keep increasing it. And as we increase the depth, as we increase the number of layers, this explosion of input into something unmeaningful and something really huge keeps happening. So you had some input, it just multiplied with 10 layers and it increased. Then it multiplied with 20 layers and it increased more. Then it multiplied with 30 layers and it became something really huge, which was not planned before. So this happens. And for this, for this explosion, to contain this explosion and to compress it into, you can say, a meaningful output, we use this RMS norm. We normalize your output after every layer. That's what RMS norm does. So you have this exploding gradient. Sorry, you have this exploding output, and we put it into the RMS norm, and it gives, it resets its scale to one. It just resets it to something that the model can work upon later. So how does it work? This is the formula for root mean square normalization. It is nowadays used with Gamma models, the models, open source models released by Gemini. So how do they work? Is It's the opposite of root mean square. So RMS is R root mean and then square. But if you look at the function, so we take the input, we took the input 2 comma 3, it was some vector, maybe given out of some um, input embedding, uh, some token embedding give us input of 2 and 3. In GPT-2, this 2 comma, it would not have been 2 comma 3, it would have been 2 comma 3 comma something 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 till 4,000 dimensions. That big the vector was in, I think, in GPT-2, and in bigger models it is much bigger. But here maybe the input is just 2 comma 3, for example. And in root mean square, we do first square. We square the input 4 comma 9, then we mean it. We add 4 plus 9 and divide it by 2. We just find its mean, central tendency of it, 6.5. And so first we did square, then we did mean, and now we just do its root. So root mean square, we just take it opposite. We apply it opposite. So first we do the square, then the mean, then the root. Root mean square, first square, then mean, then root. So we just did the opposite of the name. Yeah, that's how it applies. And then we do the normalization. we just basically take the input and divide it with the output of root mean square, and we normalize it to something like this output, which is 0.78, 1.17. Now notice it, the input was a little bigger, but the output is much smaller, which is basically uh, when we multiply with multiple layers, still the output would be little in the range of the input. So it just didn't explode, it just didn't increase. We contained it in a certain limit. That's how root mean square normalization works. If we go ahead, and this was the standard used in nano GPT and before models, but now we just use RMS norm because it is computationally efficient. It is computationally efficient, and it causes invariance. But to summarize the layer normalization, let me just summarize this all. So the layer normalization will take your input after every skip step. So these are skip steps, if you look at them. I can't increase it. Okay, so these plus symbols are skip steps. You just again apply this multi-hierarchical attention or anything, things like this. You take the input and you add it to the output of this causal self-attention. It will explode your output and will make it ununderstandable. So after it, we use a layer normalization, which will again contain it inside a range that the model can again work with. Otherwise, it will just keep growing. Again, let me show you that. So yeah, again, it will just keep exploding and it will become something useless. So for not making it useless and making it inside the range of the input, we use layer normalization. That's the basic of it, and how we do it is using root mean square normalization, but there are other methods also, but root mean square is the best. So yeah, that's all in this video. Thanks for your time, and I wish you